Hello and welcome to Bahrain Now, your source of local initiatives, happenings, talents, and trends. I'm your host, Khalid Hidris, here to walk you through our exciting lineup of segments and personalities from around Bahrain. So don't go away, we'll be right back. A collection of stories about 100 people living in Bahrain was compiled in a book in which citizens and expatriates from across the island share their real-life stories. The book, which is called 100 Bahrain Stories, features stunning portraits alongside quoted vignettes of each featured individual's life. It was first released in 2018 and will be available again for eager fans soon, with stories from nationals hailing from not only Bahrain, but also Australia, Bangladesh, Belarus, Belgium, Egypt, France, Germany, India, Ireland, Italy, Jordan, Kenya, Lebanon, Pakistan, Philippines, Singapore, Spain, Sri Lanka, UK, and even the US. The book is a true mosaic of the kingdom's cultural canvas. And to talk more about the book, we are pleased to be joined here in the studio by Tanzeel Jabbar-Khadir, who created it. Welcome, how are you doing today?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. Now, I'd like to start by asking you, what was the idea of this book and what were the aims you had in mind when you wrote it?
Well, to answer that question, I first had the idea in 2015, but I'll take a step back and tell you about how my own experience with Bahrain came to be. I came to Bahrain for the first time in 2008, and at that time I came with my husband and very young daughter. She was a toddler then. And I was working, and within 3 years actually returned to my home country of Australia, and that's where I was born and raised. And when I returned, I actually reflected on the fact that I actually hadn't explored Bahrain as much as I wanted to, and I could have. And I regretted that. And you never know what the future will hold and what is in store for you. Because in 2015, we had the opportunity to return to Bahrain. And at that time, I decided, okay, I'm going to make the most of this opportunity and I'm going to explore the island and get to know the people and connect myself to the island as much as possible.
I think it's always really heartwarming as a Bahraini to always hear so many people consider this a home. And whenever they, even if they go back, for example, and in cases like yours where they have the opportunity to come back, they almost always take that opportunity. So, that's something great for me to hear. And I can imagine cataloging all of these stories and putting this all into like a book was a very taxing but rewarding experience. Could you tell us a little bit about what the process was like?
Absolutely. So it was taxing and rewarding for sure. And what you said about all of how we get that sense of belonging, that's what I decided to do. So when I came back, I decided that I would get myself around the island, get to know the island, and that's why I decided that I wanted to interview 100 people. And at that point I decided to put those stories on Facebook, because that was what was happening then. Like, there were lots of sort of projects like that where people were putting human stories on Facebook, and then collating those stories, putting them up on Facebook. I did it for myself, but I ended up getting a bit of a following, which was very exciting. So that experience was a great experience because it really connected me to the island. So I felt very connected through that.
It's really nice to see as well that you use what was popular at the time. Like, for example, you talked about like Facebook and everything,
Yeah.
and especially in a country like Bahrain where like it's already quite a close-knit community, that brings that extra added kind of like human element to it, that interactivity as well, which I imagine probably played a huge role as well in you actually gathering the stories. And on that note, in your experience, how did you manage to get like 100 unique stories?
I think that's the really wonderful thing about human stories, isn't it? That like everyone is unique in their own different way. And about Bahrain, that's what's really special as well. There is this very special sense of diversity and inclusion, and there's so much going on culturally around the island that is to be appreciated. So I think it's exciting that every person's story is actually different. We don't realize it, but once you delve into it, each person has a unique and special story to tell. And I think that's what's exciting also and lovely about the project, is that yes, we celebrate difference, but it is our shared sense of humanity that brings people together. And I think that, of course, people are different and unique, but there is also that shared sense of humanity that I think is really special with the stories.
Very brilliantly said, and now I can see, like, especially with like that mentality, that no wonder you managed to accomplish something like this, because I think that that's very true. As different as we are, like, there are a lot of things that connect us.
Absolutely.
And I think there's also that common thread of being curious as well.
Yes.
I think that I mean, people generally take differences down a less positive route, sometimes unfortunately, but I think that ultimately when you really look into it, all of those differences are a great sense of curiosity, and even a great opportunity to see that while something might present itself as unique, and that definitely adds some flavor, ultimately what drives it is something that actually ties us together. And now you mentioned at the book's introduction that the construct of identity is a central theme in most, if not all, stories. Now, I personally really connect with this line, but I'd like to know why you included that and what it means for you.
Yeah. So the ethos of the project is that no matter who we are or where we're from, we each have our own story to tell. And in terms of identity, we are all very multifaceted and multi-layered. Like, on the surface of it, I identify as someone who is Australian born, raised in Australia, but I have a Pakistani and Indian heritage, I'm Muslim, and those things are all part of my identity, perhaps. But as you go under the surface, you are also many other things as well. You are a product of your successes, your failures, your traumas. And when you go deep under the surface for so many people, those are all parts of their identity. And I think the story in some ways peels the layers, away for people, and often people are very candid with their stories. And so that's why I do think that identity, the many multifaceted identities that we have within ourselves, is a very interesting aspect of the storytelling that 100 Bahrain Stories exhibits. You've got so many lovely stories that have those multifaceted identity stories.
Very eloquently said. And 100 Bahrain Stories has also been a celebration of people and their stories, of recognition that each person's story is like valuable and that it should be shared. Now, I can imagine that you've met a lot of people throughout this experience, and you've probably built up like a huge community. And whether that's local here in Bahrain or from maybe your family or friends in Australia, what has the general like reaction to this project been?
Do you know what? It's exciting that storytelling, like unique and beautiful stories, and I'm saying every person has a unique and beautiful story. It's just wonderful that it brings people together. Storytelling brings people together. And it sort of highlights that shared sense of humanity, that no matter who we are, from what walk of life we come from, it's just special to read someone's story and identify in some way with their story. So I think to sort of get back to your question, I think it's resonated with people because everyone finds something within the stories that they can relate to or identify with, which is wonderful because that just breaks, barriers and shows you that, as I said at the start when we were talking, that no matter who we are, our humanity is what connects us in the end.
Now, is there a specific experience, because I can tell that the entire premise and, like you said earlier, the ethos of this project is very clearly important to you. Is there a source for that? Is there a specific reason this topic seems to resonate so strongly with you?
I think that I'm always just looking for connection. And so when I moved back to Bahrain this second time round, I thought, I really need to feel connected, and if this is going to be my home, I need to find that sense of belonging within myself as well. And I think it's connection. I think we all search for connection, and I think that's why, yeah.
I think that that's brilliantly said, and it's like, I think you made good on your promise. Like, you were like, oh, if I come back to Bahrain, I'm going to make the most of it, and you clearly did. And I think you're absolutely right. We're always looking for connection, and I think one of the great things about a country like Bahrain, with how diverse it is, we still have a lot in common. We share a lot of like general experiences. It might be something as simple as we all go to more or less the same coffee shop, right? Or there's a specific style of tea or a style of coffee that becomes popular, and suddenly everyone's talking about it. Everybody kind of feels included. And no matter how simple that connection might be, the impact of it, I'm sure is something that we can all agree is incredible. And now I'm sure that this is not the end of the story. I'm sure that you seem like you're really looking forward to take this to the next level. So I do have a question. Like, do you have any plans to develop this project or create a new project along these lines?
So the exciting thing was that the book came out in 2018 and it sold out a couple of years later. And after that, everyone was asking me, is it going to come out again? Is there going to be another edition? It's exciting that it's being reprinted and it'll be in stores this week, so that's wonderful. But I'm also excited to be interviewing again. Just before COVID, I had started a project called The Women, which was mainly about women in Bahrain and successes and things like that. But after COVID, that sort of stalled. I'm excited to start again. There'll be another interviewing sort of session, and I hope to post more stories, 100 Bahrain Stories. So I've got Instagram and hopefully Substack that I'll be posting on as well.
Brilliant. I wish you all of the best in that. And I know I speak for everyone when I say I can't wait to see what you come up with next. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure. So ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We have much more coming up here on Bahrain Now. And now let's take a look at what's going on beyond the studio in the following report.
On Sunday, May 26, 2024, the French Embassy in Bahrain hosted a gala night under the patronage of His Excellency, the French Ambassador to Bahrain. This event is part of the France Alumni Day, a global initiative led by Campus France, the French national agency for higher education in France, and the first entry point for all those who are interested to study in France.
You, women and men, young and more experienced alumni, you are the beating heart of the Bahrain-French relationship, and you all have something unique and inspiring to share.
The alumni we have tonight are showing the variety of skills, of talents in so many fields. The purpose of this gathering tonight is to remind how, I would say, deep-rooted are the relationship between France and Bahrain in all fields.
The France Alumni Day takes place every year in French embassies worldwide, celebrating the talent and diversity of inspiring students who chose France for their education.
I left Bahrain in 1980 to go studying in France. I spent 7 years studying fine arts in Besançon, at the east of France, and I graduated in 1987. I came back. I worked as an art teacher in a public school, then in a private school, then in the university. So I spent my career as a teacher for around 30 years alongside the artist career. So it was a great time when I started studying art in France. I left Bahrain as a teenager, and I went to discover a whole world of art, culture, cuisine, friends, and a very, very nice country, very developed, okay, very organized. And it added to not only my knowledge, skills as an artist, but also to my personality as an open-minded person, a welcoming person. And I'm now retired, but I'm still continuing painting and doing my own art, which I have an example of here. And France and the French culture and the Francophonie, they have a big part in my life. I still listen to French songs, I read in French. I speak in French with whomever I meet. And it is really a great pleasure to be present here tonight with all these Francophone. Thank you for His Excellency, the Ambassador, Mr. Eric Girotelm, for his invitation. We like and we wish to be always close to the embassy here, to its activities, and to be part of the list of whatever initiatives they are undertaking. We are ready to take part in.
Guests are alumni from Bahrain who have studied in France in various fields, reflecting the diversity of the French higher education system, from law to medicine to finance or filmmaking. The aim is to create a spirit of community for all those who are ready to share this amazing experience they have in common.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, you can reach out to us on our social media accounts shown below. We'd love to hear from you. This was Khalid Hidris, and until next time, good night and God bless.